It's time for our pit stop. Here, we take a brief rest. It's a time to refuel, recharge, and explore shorter topics that are meaningful and helpful to us RVers. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. Joining us today is David. He is a Washington State Ferry terminal manager here, and he is going to share all of the insights that you need to know as an RVer when taking the Washington State Ferry. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, pleasure to be here.
So before we kind of dig in, can you share with us a little bit about kind of a brief history of kind of the Washington State Ferry system and how it kind of came to be?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we could get real brief on this one too. A lot of people don't know, but the Washington State actually bought the ferries from what was then the Blackball line and took over service in 1951. So we now operate about 10 routes all the way from Point Defiance in Tacoma up to the Great White North, Anacortes, and the San Juans, all the way up there. And I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the in-betweens of Seattle, Mukilteo, and Edmonds. So we definitely have a lot of crossings over the Sound.
Yeah, what are some things that you think RVers maybe need to know when they're looking to consider traveling on the Washington State Ferry?
Yeah, to have a pleasurable crossing, have no issues, that kind of a thing. So with RVs, basically they're going to want to be concerned. It's a special kind of vehicle, right? I mean, we've got flammable liquids in the propane there. We've got the size of the RV itself. Some of you have those mirrors that like to hang out too. But mostly the things that you're going to want to keep in mind as you're bringing your RV on board the ferry is the length. Definitely want to be familiar with the vehicle length. And if you're carrying any flammable liquids such as propane, gasoline, diesel fuel, we're going to be asking about things like that because there are restrictions on how many containers and limits on how much you can actually bring with you.
And what are some of those restrictions that people might need to be aware of?
Well, for example, different types of RVs out there. So you're going to have, say, like your Class A's, you've got your propane plumbed in. We're not going to have any issue with that at all. Carry as much quantity as you like. However, some of the maybe like the camper style, truck bed kind of RV, if you don't have your propane hard plumbed into the vehicle itself, we are going to restrict you to at least 12 gallons. Okay, and keep in mind, those barbecue size propane tanks that we all know and love, we consider those about 5 gallons worth of propane. So it's a capacity limit on those. So we go up to 12 gallons combined in propane or gasoline. Okay, diesel fuel we're not going to have such a huge issue with, but gasoline, due to the volatility, we're going to limit you to 12 gallons of gas or 12 gallons of propane or 12 gallons combined.
So when we start looking at vehicle length, I'm assuming that's really specific about the cost. Explain to me kind of how that works, and then so what would a ticket price be from, say, Anacortes up to Friday Harbor?
Absolutely. Okay, so fares are all going to be route specific. Some terminals, they're going to be one way. Some terminals, such as Anacortes, they're going to be round trip. So the pricing for Friday Harbor, you're looking at everything is vehicle length based. Your RV, depending on size, say your typical 50-foot RV to Friday Harbor, you're looking at $285.85 for the vehicle and the driver, and then current fares for any passengers, adult passengers, going to be $15.85. Now that is a round trip fare. Okay, some routes are one way, so do a little bit of research ahead of time. And do keep in mind, too, that there are 2 routes in the system that do operate under reservations. The Port Townsend Coupeville route and the Anacortes San Juan Islands route. When you make that reservation, you are not paying a fare. That is simply just a reservation. Okay, so they'll actually assess you your fare when you get to the dock.
Let me ask you this. If I forget to make a reservation and decide to show up at Coupeville to head out to Port Townsend, which is the entranceway out to kind of maybe taking the ferry out to the Olympic National Park, or if you are wanting to go to the San Juans, what can that look like for me? Like, what kind of wait could I be looking at? Can I still get on same day? Is that not even possible? And I'm talking peak of summer. Let's talk July, August, peak of summer, like worst conditions.
Worst case scenario.
What does that look like?
Okay. Well, hopefully you've gotten a reservation ahead of time. Okay. We'll just say that right out of the gate. We do keep standby space available. At least we try. Okay, standby, let's be real, is going to back up throughout the day. Now we're driving RVs onto the boat. Okay, these are larger vehicles. They're going to take up more space on the boat. And I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners have seen a ferry before. Those of you that have, the center section of the boat, we call that the tunnel. That's where we're going to try and park these large RVs. And you also can see that their space is limited. So we're going to do the best we can. Let's just put that out there. We're going to work as hard as we can for you guys. That space is space available, so you're going to basically need to wait in line. And that can be, depending on a busy July day, that might be all day at some locations.
And that's even with a reservation.
No,
that's if I have no reservation.
Correct.
And I decide to show up early and I'm traveling standby.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Speaking of the reservations, so let's say you are fortunate, you have the reservation. We do need people to the checked in and through the ticket booth 30 minutes prior.
30 minutes prior.
30 minutes prior to honor the reservation. Unfortunately, again, that space is at a premium, and so we can hold that space available up until 30 minutes prior to sailing time, in which case we turn any unused space over to the standby lane.
And then load people that way.
Right. So if you have a reservation, we do ask that you're ticketed and through the booth 30 minutes prior.
Okay. Let's take a moment and pause here and hear from our friends over at Camper Alerts. It's summertime, and the great outdoors are calling. But did you forget to book a campsite 9 months ago? Well, don't worry. Say goodbye to sold-out campgrounds with Camper Alerts. With Camper Alerts, you can choose your campground, select your site type, and set a personalized alert. And when a site becomes available, they will notify you. It's that simple. Visit camperalerts.com today and start setting your alerts. What other just random tips or suggestions do you have for any RVers who are looking, to go on out? What are some other just little bit of suggestions and tips you might have for them to keep consideration?
So you've gotten through the traffic to get to the dock. You've made all kinds of friends in the holding lanes there. Now we're ready to get on a boat. That's super awesome. We're on our way. The things that I see quite often are basically just drivers that are unaware of their vehicle's dimensions. Okay, these RVs are going to have stuff hanging out, whether it be off the side with your awning. Your mirrors might stick out a little bit further. You might want to tuck those in. The tail end of your RV might stick out a little further. Now, again, mind you, we're going to assess fares based on your length. Don't be surprised if you see a ticket seller come out and actually measure the vehicle, because we won't always see that tailgate action you guys got going on back there that we see. So if you do also have a lot of room on the tail there, mind the tide. You definitely want to watch the tide, because at lower tides we're not going to be able to get any low hung or overhanging vehicles on as easily. And you guys, we may have some plumbing back there, some things we don't want to dangle or drag on the ground as you're boarding. Definitely tuck those mirrors in if you can. And what's really, really important that I know sometimes we don't have much control over is that whole arriving early piece. If you're unfamiliar with how to load on a boat, come talk to one of us. We'll be happy to walk you through it. If you're not so savvy with backing up a trailer, even occasionally that has to happen. We do have people that know how to do that as well. So we can't actually get in and drive your vehicle, but we can definitely coach you through some tough spots if we need to.
Well, is there anything that we didn't ask that you feel like I should ask that RV listeners might need to know?
No, actually, we covered most everything you're going to want to know coming on the boat. Basically, it's just understanding the rules when you come in. Okay, we operate under the Coast Guard, so we do have to mind some rules and restrictions. So you can definitely go to the website and check any of that stuff out for any other questions. It's wsdot.wa.gov/ferries. All the information on your route, on your fares. Any other maybe service disruptions that may be going on. And if you do travel quite frequently, some of these routes you find yourselves on more often than not, you may want to sign up for the ferry alerts. A good system to be staying alert on what's going on throughout the system.
And is that same website where I go to make my reservations for the Port Townsend Coopville?
Absolutely. It's almost like one-stop shopping. I believe you can get your fares for a non-commercial vehicle through there. Generally at the web store, it's only the under 22s. I'd have to check that out. But yes, that website, you can get your reservations. You can even purchase your fares online. Also has some more information as far as disability access, senior discounts, that type of thing.
But I'm not going to pay for my fare on the RV yet, because I'll pay for that when I come through the toll booth.
Correct. More often than not, yes. We're not going to assess a fare until you get to the dock itself. Also, I'm glad you asked, because a lot of times too, not only when people make those reservations, they think they're booking their trip and paying for it outright. And unfortunately, we don't know how many people you're bringing with you until you actually show up.
So I do need to give a credit card when I make that reservation.
Yes, it's a free reservation. You'll put a credit card number on just to hold your spot. They do assess you a no-show fee if, again, you're not at the dock checked in that 30 minutes prior.
Okay. Well, David, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us here on RV Out West. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like me to discuss, please contact me via rvoutwest.com. I would also encourage you to start using hashtag RVOutWest for your social media posts. Share with our community about your camping and RV adventures that you've taken here in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.